here and welcome Saleem to the stage. Saleem, I know on the screen here I've got Tanya's photo, but I believe she had an emergency and couldn't join you today. Am I correct?
That is correct, Steve. Yeah, thanks for accepting.
Great. Well, first off, I love the fact that we can do digital discussions like this, and they're so easy to set up because Saleem, this one to me is going to be fascinating. And we did this practically at the last minute because the other day, Saleem called me, and he's with New Hampshire Medical Supply, which we're going to learn about here briefly. But you really sort of posed to me a challenge that I was not aware of. As you can see by the background, Saleem is in the medical supply business, but he called me up and basically said, hey, Steve, I really want to share some problems that I encounter here on a daily basis. And it's, people sort of not being satisfied with what Medicare and Medicaid will pay for when it comes to medical equipment. He was also talking about how folks come in here and they are not properly sized for their canes, wheelchairs, walkers, what have you, which can result in even worse injuries or additional injuries and compromising their safety. And I was like, man, this is fascinating because I've talked about a lot of topics in my career, but this one was never really brought to my attention. And so I instantly said, you know what, Saleem, I'm just going to get you on and let's talk about these challenges here in front of our audience and see where the conversation goes. Because I really think you've got some really interesting resources that you can share with folks, but just this concept in general is probably a blind spot for a lot of people. But so that's sort of the catalyst for today's discussion. But before we dive into this, let's get to know you a little bit better. And I find your background fascinating. If you don't mind giving us the Cliff Notes version of your background and what led you up to leading the team there at New Hampshire Medical Supply.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. Something very interesting though, you just like captured our discussion in true reality, Steve. I've been reading the magazine, glimpsing through, not very recently, actually, for some time. And I'm still wondering, right now I'm wondering when I'm talking to you, that why I never really thought about this. Because I was seeing a lot of professionals in the senior living space, and I knew that I'm one of the professionals. And somehow it just never sparked. And finally, I picked up the phone after a few years. So I don't have an answer. But quick background for my background. I am a pharmacist by training. And after graduating from pharmacy school, somehow I wanted some different kind of excitement. So I did not pursue the profession of pharmacy, and I went for my master's degrees, and my degrees were more geared towards forensic toxicology. So I joined Maricopa County, Phoenix, in their police and federal bureau department, and I became a crime scene investigator. It's a conflict of interest. Pharmacy is on one side and the other one is forensics. Worked there for a few years, super passionate, lived in Phoenix, sort of kind of got burned because of overwork and the cases I was dealing, and I left the profession. On the pharmacy side, worked as a retail pharmacist for many years, opened up old-fashioned retail, small pharmacy in downtown Baltimore. Then we started entering in the custom drug manufacturing and the medical supply, and acquired a few businesses during this time. And then I realized that I'm not that kind of guy who can own a lot of businesses. I ran successful businesses, but I was disconnected with the population when I started drifting more towards the business side. So pulled myself out, and between a few towns where I used to own pharmacies, I chose to keep the Washington, D.C. location because I like the district somehow. And the rest of the locations were shrank down and sold. And we ran with Washington, D.C. And then we basically closed down the pharmacy division altogether because the whole team fell in love with the medical supply. And here I am at New Hampshire Medical Supply in DC.
Great. I want to have you back on for a full hour to hear about this forensic job that you had. I think that with all the television shows on that are on that topic, it would be interesting to know how close that was to the reality of your job. So that's really interesting, but totally off topic here. All right. So I think you prepared some slides, and if you want to dive into this this topic, what I would say is that feel free to share your slide deck, and I will duck behind the curtain here. But if you don't mind, you know, what I found for our presenters is, you know, do a few slides and then just check. You can check in with me, or what I would say to our audience is that if anybody has any comments related to anything Saleem is talking about, jump in and either type them in or raise your hand, and we'll address them as you speak. How does that sound, Saleem?
Great plan. Yes. Yes.
Okay, great.
Fast.
So I'm going to duck behind the curtain here, and I will hopefully, there you go. Okay, and then, yep. Yeah, click that from beginning there. There you go. That's perfect.
Okay. Well, so New Hampshire Medical Supply, we are in DC. We are actually, interestingly, the pretty much the oldest medical supply at the same location, same thing since 1961. So it's 60 years, I'm assuming, yes. Okay, and that's where we are. Nothing exciting here, just the basic information. The important part, again, couple things which in this presentation I really like to dive in and get an opportunity. The sizing and fitting, extremely important part, and then it gets connected with who the payer is, because obviously there are products which can fall in a well-balanced coverage category. Some products are very necessary and they go beyond the coverage, and they are important too. But the well-balanced dispensing plan would be having products which best suits the patient or the beneficiary, in this case, we would call them. And there has to be, a strong effort where we can cover those products if there is a third party who's covering those things. So basic insurances, obviously, in the country, we have two big giants, obviously, the federal and state. And then I just wrote there mostly everything in between. Then it goes in a lot of Blue Crosses and different kind of insurances, military, federal insurance plans, things of that nature. They all have, unfortunately, their own policies. So when it comes to the insurance, if we are open to accept 200 plans, I will not be surprised that at least 100 of them are not matching with each other. So there's a lot of background work which happens commonly in the insurance world, which medical supply places are doing. So that's basically the common insurance coverage, which we will discuss a little bit more actually on this topic. I just wanted to bring a few things, and then there are a few categories, and then I think like Steve recommended, I'm going to do a few slides, and then let's go ahead and see what everyone thinks. So basically, the point which I really want to press on is we are looking at a cane here. Now, a cane obviously is been around since we are as humans. We always needed some kind of support to kind of walk and things like that.
Whoops, your sound just kind of faded there, Saleem.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, now I can. Yeah.
Okay.
You sort of dropped out there.
I think it's internet.
Now, do you mind, before you jump into the different sizing of the canes and everything, go back to that one screen on the payer sources. So I thought this was interesting. One of the things that you shared with me that happens quite often is somebody will come in to your location or contact you, and they don't necessarily have those requirements that you have on the screen completed, or it's not accessible. Was I correct in remembering that?
That is correct, Steve. Actually, it's again, there are so many simple things, but they are complex on the background. So one thing for all the audiences, one thing is very important. A very differentiating factor.
Yeah, you keep on fading out.
Can you hear me?
Now that your volume is, keep on talking.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. It's kind of you've sort of been popping in and out a little bit. Okay, but I'll let you know if it happens again.
Yes, please. So a very important difference between a pharmacy and a medical supply is when a prescriber writes a prescription for a prescription medicine, that prescription is most likely entirely one document which is needed to process. In medical supply, a prescription written by a prescriber usually does not take precedence. It is an initiation of an order, and it's almost always not sufficient enough. So it's just basically a starting of a treatment plan. And that's one very major difference between a medical supply and a pharmacy. When we have patients coming in, they bring a prescription for a medical supply. And what they sometimes don't realize, which is not their obviously job to realize. So we explain them that this prescription with your payer is basically an initiation of an order. The order is not complete. And then we start going back and we know the requirements of that one certain payer against one certain equipment. And then we match those requirements. And then we start communicating with the prescriber. This is the main difference, which I can tell if someone asks me, what's the difference between a pharmacy and a medical supply on the insurance side? And that's the first thing which I will say, that a prescription for a pharmacy is sort of a one and done kind of deal. In a medical supply, it's almost always not sufficient enough for the payers. Does it kind of answer, Steve?
Yeah. So the downside is that sometimes if people don't have these requirements and they're requesting, equipment, or their physician said that they can get this equipment, then they've gone through the effort of contacting you, and you may or may not be able to supply them the equipment under Medicare, Medicaid, or private insurance. And then they're sort of like, they have to go back to the physician, or they have to, go through this procedure, all the while their loved one is waiting for the equipment. So it definitely, is a little bit more complex than I realized.
Yes, it is. The at least with our business, we realize that we do this obviously professionally. So we try not to engage the patient directly with the prescriber. So the least in this case, what we can do, and basically the most we can do, is we receive a prescription, we explain the beneficiary that there are more requirements which are needed, because we may need discharge notes, we may need treatment plans, clinical progress notes, because that's what the payer wants to see. But we take the responsibility of acquiring all of those documents. The timing is not really in our control. That one thing which becomes a little bothersome, even for me also. I don't enjoy this part, but it's not in my control, where two parties are involved and the physician and prescribers are very busy, seeing their patients, taking care of them. So both of our professional sides are busy. And in this case, the patient, they have to wait up until the documentation is not complete.
Okay, great. Yep. Sorry to derail you there, but that's great.
Okay, so so I can move to the sizing now on the canes. So why sizing and a fit is very important. As I said, I chose canes as the first slide when it comes to sizing. The posture of the body, and like Steve touched this topic in the beginning, a proper fit is extremely important, because an improper fit is not only useless, but it can be very harmful, because the body basically adjusts itself according to the situation and surrounding. I have seen many cases, we see these cases all day long, where someone is using a cane and they are there and they are talking about a different complaint. I don't have clinical training in orthopedics, or I'm not a therapist or a physicist, but I can still tell that by looking at their posture and the equipment they are using is not fitting well. That one thing I can confidently say. So even for something which looks as harmful as cane, you can see this picture here, there are a few rules which we commonly use. And in these rules, we basically look at the arm angle. Again, this is eyeballing method. We don't have very sophisticated technology, but we are still looking at it, that is not overextended or underextended. The height of the canes, which are commonly adjustable, which we usually always pick up an adjustable cane, because that's important. And then the way the beneficiary or the user is holding the grip. Because if you notice in these three pictures, and these are just three pictures, there are so many different canes. The grip and the handle is different. And it's not really designed, like one grip is not designed for the whole population. So we have our patients usually try a couple grips made by a few manufacturers. Sometimes the feel of the rubber also gives different people different kind of confidence. And I observe all of this, if I'm there and whenever I'm handling with a patient. So that's something which is a very important topic, which is the proper fit and the usage of equipment. Same thing with the walker. Steve, you want to jump in with any questions about canes, or you want?
Yeah. So I'm assuming that on this one, because I've had loved ones in the hospital who have been or have been sort of provided a cane or walker or device, there's generally not much choice that is provided. It's sort of like, here you go. I guess and I just talked with one of our readers who was ordering something on Amazon for his mom or dad. I guess the value of being able to play around with several different choices, there's a huge benefit with this, and it's sort of like the amount of time that you're going to be using a product like this makes it even more important. But I can just see by the diagrams that you've got on the screen, and just, you know, just plain knowledge of medical equipments and canes is that they come in all different shapes and sizes. So having the ability to have some choice is probably pretty important.
Exactly, yeah. And then again, you know, so the choices which we offer, there are different ranges. You know, I mean, one, obviously, always, if the payer is not the beneficiary, then obviously the payer who is allowing this dispensing, their rules have to be sort of followed. So what we try to do is bring as much variety as we can by staying under the guidelines of a payer. But if you remove the payer, then of course, you know, I mean, the field becomes little plain. And in this case, much more variety can be offered. But if we have to do the balancing act, then the choices become slightly limited. But at least us doing this professionally for so long, we have cherry picked the manufacturers. And we don't deal with random manufacturers because so many years we have seen the feedback. So we are pretty confident, you know, I mean, who we are buying from and what can go wrong actually.
Great.
Okay. Same topic here with the walker. And this is basically commonly a progression with life. So the way Tanya designed this, by the way, and again, she really, really wanted to be on this call, maybe next time. So basically from cane, commonly if the progression is happening, then we are talking about walkers. The 15-degree angle is mostly a universal angle, but at this time for the walkers, we usually see if the beneficiary, even after a 15-degree, is slouching a little bit, how their shoulders looks like, and if they are bending the back too much. That's something which is a concerning, because as I mentioned before, once these equipments become part of someone's daily regime, the posture starts following. So basically, we don't want to from one bad posture to a worst posture. So this is important for us as a professional when we are looking at someone. Interestingly, when we are dealing with a patient, beneficiary, or a loved one, sometimes the aesthetic also plays a role where they say, I like this one. And it might be an expensive product. But again, we have to follow, which we don't, I mean, obviously I cannot finally enforce it if someone wants to buy a product, but if we don't think that that's not a good fit, then we usually try to explain that this may look very aesthetically appealing, but this one is not a right fit. So the basic idea on walkers is that there are 4-legged walkers and there are 2-legged walkers, if you see. As soon as you jump from 2 wheels to 4 wheels, the common misconception is that there is no 4-wheeled walker. It becomes a rollator because it rolls. So that's one very interesting, differentiation where someone asks for a 4-wheeled walker, and then we need to take them to the rollator side because it has to have very proper braking system. But these are the walkers, and then same rules apply, as I said, that we try different heights for the patient, we try the grip, and then see their posture, if it's a proper fit or not.
Now, a question related to the quality of what qualifies under Medicare and insurance versus like, so do you have people who come in and they say, my doctor would like me to have a walker or a rollator, and they have all their paperwork, and then you show them the product that qualifies for Medicare or Medicaid, what have you. And is there sort of a limit to that? I mean, like, what happens when somebody wants something that may be a little bit that's outside of that limit, or is there a financial limit to the standard walker that you qualify for under most insurance plans?
Oh yeah, that's an amazing, that's a great question. Really, really a great topic. So basically, first of all, any federally registered medical supply place who is dealing with federal and state government, there are certain guidelines which we have to follow, fortunately, for our beneficiary, unfortunate for the business growth, because anyone can sell anything over Amazon. I cannot sell anything. And the interesting part is that even if I try to price match, I cannot sell those things, because when we were getting credentialed, then that's like a long time ago, with federal and state plans and the TRICARE military and all those, which we basically were tested and we were guided that we will follow the guidelines of certain manufacturing methods. There are some approved products on the federal government's list. It's called PDAC, PAC. And they basically, the federal government is trying their best and the state government follows to make sure that this manufacturer is following the guidelines. So I cannot deviate from that PDAC list, because if I'm dealing with federal and state, I will have to stick with those manufacturers. If someone is selling something online, they may or may not be using a manufacturer which is PDAC. So that's one layer on this topic. Now, under a PDAC guideline, they say that you can choose your manufacturers, but they have to be following in this guideline. At that time, it becomes more of a business decision where we, as I said, we've been doing this for, a little longer than some other people. We already have a lot of feedback on different manufacturers. I am allowed to pick any manufacturer if that manufacturer is on the federal and state list. But within those, we have experience that there is mild deviation on the quality and the recalls and, if I heard any complaints. So after experiencing this for very long, we chose a manufacturer which we had the least or almost null issues. So the second question, Steve, what you were saying that, okay, so the first question I think I answered that, how we chose the product in this, in this one dispensing category. The second question is that a beneficiary, patient, or a loved one, they would like to get a different product. So there are a couple of guidelines, product by product. Some insurance companies, they allow using their funds, and they will allow a beneficiary or a patient to upgrade. Meaning is that if the insurance plan is paying $20 and the product which a beneficiary wants is not the one we are recommending, they want an upgraded product, and that product is $25, then some insurance companies, they will allow the beneficiary to pay $5 from their pocket, yet we can use the payer's fund also at the same time. But this is not a rule of thumb. It differs by different diagnoses, and it differs by the product classification and the insurance, which we have all the background knowledge. Unfortunately, that knowledge is so detailed that it cannot be presented or created in one slideshow. Does it answer the question, Steve?
I think so. So the now in health insurance, I can certainly see with like the health insurance plans where they would have that flexibility. The when it comes to like Medicare, is the walker that you can get under Medicare, is it basically this is what you, this is the class that you have to choose from, and that's it.
That's basically it, actually. But again, like two options comes in, because you see there is a ceiling. So walkers can go as fancy as $500-600, which are really expensive. I mean, when I see some of them, um, and when the insurance company is paying, they are paying a certain ceiling, and this is it. And they are that if you want, you can give Cadillac, and this is your choice. But we have this price range here, and this price range covers a Chevy or equivalent. Mm-hmm. So obviously, to run the business, running it on a negative process is a little difficult in pretty much all the cases. The product is obviously approved by the insurance, so there is no doubt that it's a substandard product because it came from the same criteria. The rest of the features and added things and added quality, as I said, there are two options at that time. One is that we check and we present the option that if someone wants to go with an upgraded product, insurance company is willing to take part, and this is your remainder of the payment. In some cases, insurance companies do not. They said either you dispense this product or you cannot really ask for extra money to compensate for the upgrade. So in this case, some patients just literally remove the insurance from the deal.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of thinking. Or they, and I imagine a lot of times people might get the standard walker because Medicare pays for it, but then they go home and start searching online, find a deal on Amazon for something and purchase that. And then that could present some complications if they haven't been assisted in the sizing.
That is exactly true. That is exactly true. And as I said, it becomes interesting conflict of interest for us because, I mean, sometimes we see, different beneficiaries, different patients. We sometimes feel an urge to offer them something which is slightly upgraded in a sense, meaning, I mean, like if I see something like, I say, well, you know what, I mean, the product is approved, the one which you will get through your insurance plan. But the time of usage, which you are telling me, this is slightly more than government was thinking when they were designing this payment plan. Mm-hmm. And your case is slightly unique. So in this case, I would probably recommend that you go with this product. But again, it becomes a conflict of interest, or at least it's presumed as conflict of interest, where I say that, you know what, I recommend that in this one case, you just basically pay out of your pocket instead of getting something which is not 100% fitting, with your needs.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great.
Yeah,
no, that's good.
How it is. Okay, so walkers, and then we are moving to four-wheeled walkers. So people commonly, I mean, whenever someone asks for a four-wheeled walker, the terminology is a rollator. So then it becomes a rollator. As you see, rollators actually become a little fun part because looks like to me that manufacturers, they do spend some research in the cane world. They don't really do a lot of fancy stuff in walkers commonly, but then I immediately see that rollators becomes a very interesting and a sort of a very personal kind of choice. Same rules apply here because all of these rollators, there are different factors which needs to be seen. You are seeing a few of them here. Some design elements are different. The one to the left, actually, this this cherry kind of finish. This is one of those very cool ones, and this one is a an in-house rollator only because it's hand polished and all that kind of stuff. I love this product when I touched it, but again, it's a That's one thing which should not be taken outside in the weather. That's why it has a food plate instead of a storage. But rollators, several factors, the locking and unlocking of the braking system, very important. The size of the wheels, like anything, like a difference between a sedan and a truck. So we ask for the usage. We say, well, do you go, up the curve or down the curve commonly? Do you go to some shopping malls and places like that? Because these sizes, they can go, from 4 inches all the way to some cases like 8 or 9 inch, depending on the usage. Then the storage bin and all these kind of things, compactness and foldability is very important because people use rollators, obviously, to walk around a lot of times outside of their house. Very important factors like the one Tanya wrote here, handle width. This is very important. Where, we ask the beneficiaries to just loosen up their shoulders and then go for a natural grip. And if it's not going naturally, then we try to find the rollator, which comes in different handle width, because this is important. They will be using it for quite some time. Weight capacity is extremely important. This weight capacity topic, we are slightly more sensitive on this topic. And if it's in our knowledge that a patient's weight is exceeding from the product which that patient is intending to buy, I have refused the sale actually a few times on this one, because this is something which I cannot really let go, because I do know that we are asking for an accident. Because the frame may bend and the wheels, may turn in a wrong direction. So in this case, actually, the weight capacity is very important to match. And then the body composition. As you see, there is a seat there, and underneath the seat, there is a shopping storage bag. So this seat needs to be able to accommodate the circumference of the buttocks area and the waist and the weight of the patient at the same time. So there are 5 or 6 different positions which we commonly have people try. And then when we look at them, we say, well, you know what, this one is probably better. And we ask those questions over the phone also, and we can get an idea that what's going on.
Great.
So, and now we are moving to the wheelchair part. And this one is very important. Well, like all of those, because rollators, we can see there are 2 or 3 different moving parts. They are not that complex. Wheelchair is basically the kind of thing which has been around for so long that most of them, they look the same. This wheelchair picture is, that's a brand new wheelchair, 2020 model. And if I put a wheelchair, a 1990 model, they will not look too different. Now, what is different? What exactly has happened during these years? So most engineering work happened not around the shape and the look of the wheelchair. The concept is still the same. But a lot of other factors, they started playing, and then most of the evolution of a wheelchair, it happens around the wheelchair. For example, in this one wheelchair, if we see, there are, so if we see in this wheelchair, we can basically, we are seeing a few things here, and commonly, if everyone can see, I'm basically circling this thing. So this one is a wheelchair. It looks like a transport chair. So it looks like that someone can hold the handles from the back there. It's not designed for a transport chair. What we are seeing here is basically a tilting mechanism for the back. And this one is a very important, because this one position obviously is not going to fit everyone. And then the body demands different positions, especially if someone is spending some time on the wheelchair. Same thing if you see that the leg rest is elevated here, and they can flip it out of the way if you want to move them. So these are the small, tiny little things which makes a lot of difference. And in this picture, there are so many interesting things which are commonly offered when a wheelchair is being dispensed. And on this one topic, I strongly recommend, actually. Strongly recommend. These are the special foam cushions, and the way they breathe, they reduce the chances of lesions and sores, which can develop, because somehow the base of the wheelchair and the back is still that vinyl looking thin cloth. I don't know why, but that something wasn't researched much. The same thing which I was mentioning here, you see the elevated leg rest, because they are needed. Having legs at one place for quite some time is painful. A seat belt. A lot of patients, or the caregivers, they do not know that these things are available, and they are extensively dispensed. So we were talking about this. And tie tipper. That's something which I personally believe that should be a part of default to every wheelchair, but there is no wheelchair which comes with this thing. This is an accessory. And a tie tipper is an extremely important part, because that can become very dangerous if someone tilts the wheelchair back. Then you have extended brakes, because sometimes every patient, as the topic of this discussion is, one size doesn't fit all. They're not really able to reach. Well, they are able to reach, but they are not super comfortable in the braking and unbraking system. So these levers, they can make it adjustable and easy. Obviously, these are the ankle hoops, because there are some patients, their legs are slipping from the pedestal. So any comment, Steve?
Yeah, one comment is that, it really is sad that the wheelchair of today pretty much looks almost exactly like the wheelchair from the 1960s. Aesthetically, it hasn't changed much. And it's interesting to see the accessories and what have you. But I feel like when I've had loved ones that have been placed in a wheelchair recently, what they're getting stock through their insurance is not that much different than the wheelchair of 20 years ago. Are you seeing that there is some? I think the accessories are really great for innovation, but are you seeing that there is innovation in this area of wheelchair design?
There are some fancy designs, Swiss made, and carbon fiber is being used. Obviously, when we are running a healthcare business, our commitment is to take care of the general population.
Right.
Now, this is the commitment that, whatever services we designed, it's basically fits the most people. Mm-hmm. There are some people who have purchased, especially ordered through us, and purchased a carbon fiber wheelchair, which was, if I'm not wrong, probably $6,000.
Yeah.
I cannot design my business, obviously, to serve one or two people. We are designing it to service as many as we can. The good part here is that insurance companies, they are realizing actually the value of the accessories. And the really good news is that federal and state plans, a lot of them, they are covering these accessories.
Oh, that's great. That is great
It
news.
is great. Yeah, but Steve, prescribers and patients, unfortunately, they do not know. So
Mm-hmm.
we try our best to tell them at the time of dispensing. Although, I mean, obviously, I cannot make this decision of adding accessories. A prescriber has to back me up. And again, the same rule follows. I need the physician written order. I need some justification, actually, that why these things will be important. But what I'm saying here that is doable, and the insurance companies, they are realizing it, which is a really good thing.
Great. Let's see. I think you may be moving towards power wheelchairs, but a question came in that says, what determines whether a patient can get a manual or a power wheelchair?
Of course, yes. This is a great question. So basically, the way payer, and again, when I talk payer, obviously the biggest payer we have is the federal. And a lot of insurance companies, instead of creating their own rules, they only amended their rules. And it's easier for them to just pick up the federal guidelines. So what happens that, I mean, a small, well, it's not a small payer, but any payer, like for example, a DC Medicaid as compared to Medicare. So DC Medicaid obviously did not want to use a lot of their resources. They picked up the Medicare guidelines and then they made small amendments. So this is how insurance companies commonly work. So they look at the bigger payer and then they make their own alignments a little bit and make those changes. So what determines, first of all, they use a method of progression, and which I 100% agree, is that they would like to see if a certain treatment plan worked for a patient or not before we jumped onto a really more extensive treatment plan. So they go with the progression of simplicity. That one thing they kind of use. When they use this progression method, they will be asking us and demanding that we show them and prove them the progression. Meaning is that there has to be a failure of a certain stage in order for us working along with the prescribers to move to the next stage. So that's one thing where they would like to see. There are very straightforward qualification criteria, and there are several of them, and we go through the checklist item. But to answer this question that what qualifies for a wheelchair, I will only say just one very simple thing, from a manual wheelchair to motorized. So if we look at this picture, how a wheelchair is going to be used, a manual wheelchair. If I put myself in a wheelchair, then how exactly I'm going to be using this wheelchair. So basically, I need my arms and upper body strength to move and maneuver the wheelchair, to apply the brakes safely, and I should be able to make a 360-degree turn frequently. This is a very simple and basic thing. If I'm not able to do this, that would be the first qualification criteria. And it has to be backed, obviously, because we need support from the prescriber. So they have to back this up that, yes, we are seeing this and the upper body strength is slightly missing. From the motorized wheelchair, when the deterioration is happening to someone, there are some patients who are paralyzed actually. Then you must have seen, everyone must have seen extremely sophisticated motorized wheelchairs where they are using the wheelchair with a joystick. And that becomes a complex rehab kind of wheelchair. So we can go along with this progression, but again, those basic concepts needs to be used. So if I need to just pick up one criteria, and there are more than one, then I will say that the first thing is that on a patient assessment, he or she is not able to use the upper body strength to move the wheelchair. And that becomes the first qualification criteria for a motorized wheelchair. Does it answer the question, Steve?
Okay, I think so. And then and the doctor would be the person that writes that order, correct?
Yes, the order, obviously, a physician written order. But again, as I said, the medical charts, justification notes, and the plan of treatment is important, because the payer would like to know that if they pay something, then what is the plan? Like, how exactly are us and the provider are basically justifying that this is a beneficial treatment plan?
Okay. Now, how often do you have like a client come in and, where let's say that the order was for a traditional wheelchair, but then you meet with the client and you realize that they would benefit from a power wheelchair. Are you able to contact the physician? Or does that even happen that often?
It does happen. It does happen all the time. We honor the request because we don't want to immediately say no. But if we can really see a few of those factors, for example, a person comes in and that person is coming in rolling the wheelchair, I can just look at it, and that patient asked me, they said, you know what, I have seen those motorized wheelchairs. How can I get it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say immediately no, but obviously we know. And I try to explain them that, hey, listen, I understand your feeling that you should need a motorized wheelchair. It's an expensive item. But at the same time, these are the very basic criterias. And most likely, you may not qualify. Some patients agree to this. Some patients still want us to have a dialogue with the prescriber. In this case, we absolutely do not mind. And we basically engage the prescriber and we present the case that this is what patient is thinking and this is what we think.
Let's see. Deborah asks, and you may have said this, but what are the two items to the left of the wheelchair when we view the picture? So I think the two on the top there, that's the anti-tipping device. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. Anti-tipping device. And then down below is an extended braking system.
Okay. So that you don't need to move your arms down to the wheels, that the braking system is on the armrests or at that level.
That is correct.
Okay, great. Okay. And so this, when we talked about carbon fiber wheelchairs costing $6,000, I will throw in to the mix that I'm a cyclist. And I guess the analogy that I would draw is that what we're looking at on the screen would be similar to a bike that your kid might get at a store, whereas like a carbon fiber wheelchair would be something that has more handcrafted, customized design parts, and what would be what you would buy at a specialized bike shop. And a lot of times the wheels on those carbon wheelchairs are the same wheels that they're using in Tour de France, correct?
Yes, I'm not as avid, which we talked last time, right, Steve, a bicyclist, but yes, I have purchased a few. Well, again, it becomes a balancing act, right? I mean, if someone, like I have had friends who I used to ride, they would basically pay a lot of money just to reduce just 2 pounds from a bicycle. And you exactly know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about a few $1,000s to reduce a few pounds. I was never that good, and I did not pay that kind of money. So as I said, it is a balancing act. And if someone asks me, Saleem, justify the carbon fiber, and they start from 3,000 or so, and then they start going up. I do not know that like how many weightage points do you give to functionality? I mean, of course, the product is very top notch.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, then the question comes in that how many points are we giving to the looks? Where the product is so cool that people are really turning their head and they're looking at it. The product is extremely lightweight. But all of these things which I'm saying, I am, in my professional opinion, very less people probably would be needing a carbon fiber kind of wheelchair.
Yeah, I think that's if you've got a more permanent disability, you know, there's a difference between sort of a temporary disability and using a wheelchair versus somebody who may have a lifelong disability where the value of buying something that's lighter and more nimble could be used for many, many years. So I didn't want to get it off track, but somebody did ask about that. Let's see, another question says, treatment plan of care. So the patient has to be sure that a doctor is made aware of their needs. Does an occupational therapist have to make an assessment for which wheelchair? Good question. Like,
great question. Actually, not really for the motorized wheelchair. So we are talking about three very simple distinctions: a manual wheelchair, a motorized wheelchair, and a complex rehab wheelchair. So three distinctions we are talking about, three different criterias. So the first one, obviously, a prescriber can carry this all the way. And between us and the prescriber, we do this all day long. And, you know, we dispense these wheelchairs with accessories. So this is one thing, most commonly used. Motorized required more documentation, but it does not use any other trade than the prescribing physician or a nurse practitioner, anyone who has an authority to initiate the order, granting that they are providing us the documentation, but a second trade is not involved. The last one, which is a complex rehab, which very less patient obviously needs. We are talking about debilitating diseases which require that equipment. That requires about three trades. And in this one, you know, a physiotherapist gets involved, a complex rehab trained certified technician gets involved, a prescribing physician gets involved. Interestingly, in a lot of cases, there is so much documentation required for the third classification that there are professional companies who basically only offer the fitting. Because us as a dispenser, for the complex rehab, we need a professional to basically sign the fitting of that one equipment.
Okay.
So that's how it works.
Great. And holy cow, I can't believe it's already 1 o'clock, but let me, here's another question that came in is, so since patients sit for long periods of time in the wheelchairs, what can help prevent the ulcer skin deterioration and sores?
Okay, hands down to this. I strongly recommend these. These are not some home goods, whatever, you know, some furniture kind of cushions. These are specifically designed by the people who design the complex mattresses. Mm-hmm. I would strongly recommend the seat cushion and the back cushion. Strongly recommend.
Great. Okay. Well, this has been great. If you want to rip through some of your additional slides, I know we probably cut you. We're going slower than I expected, but I'll try to stop interrupting you.
Well, you know, I mean, so we are hopefully not going anywhere. First of all, you know, so any questions offline can be asked. You know, we are here in DC. Bathroom safety equipment always couples with mobility, super important thing, because slip and fall is basically from mobility. Slip and fall is my second pet peeve, I should say, when I'm seeing aging population. And I'm very sensitive on this topic. You know, it's I personally had a knee surgery, And I feel at the age of 47 that I can sometimes slip and fall. And it's a terrifying feeling. I strongly recommend, we recommend this. We got DC Medicaid start paying for this category, by the way, after fighting with them for very long. And these categories are, I would say, must have in anyone's bathroom. So these are some basic categories, shower chair, benches, elevated toilet seats, the grip, all of these things.
Well, and Saleem, you're hitting a real sweet spot of a lot of our discussions where our goal, hopefully, folks will start making these types of improvements way before they have a fall or a health issue. I mean, there's no reason why we can't have grab bars in our showers now, so that if we need them in the future, we're okay. But it's nice to see that you've got this grab bar that it sort of looks like an old style telephone receiver. Am I assuming correctly that that's sort of like adhered? No, the one with the blue handle in the middle. Is that a suction cup grab bar?
Yeah, so we dispense both of them, the screw and the suction cup. Suction cup ones, 80-90% of the time suction cup, because we don't offer installation. We are not in the installation business. So suction cup obviously requires either tiles or a shiny surface. Mm-hmm. But they come in both styles, the bolted ones and the suction cup. And these bars can be used horizontally and vertically.
Yeah. No, we do a lot of discussions on universal design, and there's just no reason why we shouldn't have benches in all of our showers, accessible entries, as well as grab bars, so that you're not having to, at the last minute, sort of retrofit your shower after an accident or an injury. So, but these are good to know that there's so many products here that can be easily installed in somebody's shower.
Very easily, yeah. And then again, slip and fall, as I said, slip and fall, there is so much published data from Hopkins, from other, highly reputable institutes. 60-70% of the patients, a lot of times after a slip and fall, they don't make it back because they go through the rehabilitation, the hospital, and all of these things. As I said, 47 years of age, I feel, mild chills sometimes, in my backbone. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking that maybe I'm a little different, or maybe I'm not in a very good health, but I think I am. But this is a dangerous issue here. Mm-hmm. Same thing with commodes. Very important. The elevated toilet seat back here, very important part, because if someone has predisposing factors, mild, cardiac conditions, diabetes, things of that nature, getting up and getting down the toilet actually puts a lot of strain on the heart muscle. The heartbeat goes up. And this thing really helps. It's a tiny, nifty little thing. It really helps. That's all I can say. Mm-hmm. So commodes are super important. Well, this is I'm just bragging about my showroom. We are in DC, so that's the best we can do. This guy is amazing. This is a seat lift chair, which is also very useful. It gets the patient up all the way, and it has a lot of functions which are designed, keeping the modalities in mind. And that's pretty much it. This is all we can offer. We analyze the insurance, we kind of work, as far along as we can go. We fit and deliver. As I said, we don't, we'll bring the equipment in because we cannot leave it at the doorstep. COVID was very challenging, because I'm in a business where we usually have to step into someone's house, make sure that the equipment is working, have them try it, and it's just literally made it so difficult. But we survived, so we're still here. So all of these things, they happen daily basis. They are happening now. That's it.
That's great. And somebody just said, Saleem, can you put your contact info in? And I just did that. Let's see. Somebody says, better to have it and not need it than need it and not have this support and protection to prevent. Yeah, I mean, one of the things, Saleem, when you were showing the commodes, one of the things that oftentimes shocks people is that if they have a fall or something where their mobility is compromised and they go back to their home and they haven't thought about how they're going to get around their house and how they're going to live if they had a mobility problem. You know, we see a lot of people that are like living with a commode in their dining room in a hospital bed because their bedroom is upstairs and they can't get it up and down the stairs. And it's, you know, we really urge people to sort of look at their home environment in advance of having a problem, because sometimes you can do a little bit of design to make your home more accessible. And it's great that you're a resource for everybody there, but I know you would love it if people would just start right out of the gate with a safer home, you know?
Of course. And then I don't know, Steve, if you can share my email and Tanya's email, because, you know, I mean, we kind of really love it. Although there's a decent sized department on the back end to answer all the questions. But yep. I think these are one of the favorite topics, which, you know, I cannot stop talking.
Yeah, so, no, we have certainly, this has gone by way quicker than I thought today, but you presented a lot of thought-provoking ideas, and I will definitely share your contact with everybody. I'll be sharing the recording later this afternoon. And Saleem, I really appreciate you bringing this topic to my attention, and I can see us having continued discussions on this and similar topics.
Fantastic. Okay, amazing. Really thank everyone actually to join this this webinar.
Great. We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone.